Good morning, good morning, good Wednesday morning. It's hump day. It's hump day. Well, good morning, everybody. I hope that this message finds you well on a Wednesday morning. So I just wanted to pick back up on kind of picking at the elements when we're looking at growth, right? Especially career growth, looking at the elements that kind of get us there, right? And so in the beginning, kind of talking about or asking the question, how did you get to where you are? And I hope that maybe you wrote down some of those attributes. I know yesterday it was a little difficult to be on message with all the interruptions. So hopefully I can be quick and to the point today. So why are those things important? Why is it important to go through an exercise like that? Well, it's really important for us as individuals to understand the decisions, right? Whether intentionally or unintentionally, the decisions that were made that got us there, because those decisions are indicators, right, of habits and behaviors. And so as we think about any type of change, we really have to be aware of or bring to the surface, try to uncover what some of those maybe even somewhat hidden behaviors are, or those decision processes are. And so when we look at a lot of the typical trends about how an individual, how I got to where I am, how you got to where you are, how the person sitting in the cubicle next to you, or your good friend who you talk with on the weekend that complains about their job, how did they get there, right? How did they get where they are? And so as we look at those trends and those kind of those indicators that I mentioned that get us there, really one of the key attributes around that are what things were external and what things were internal. What things did you consciously and intentionally make decisions on as it relates to career growth or your personal growth? Because we know, I think if you listen to me yap all the time, any amount of time, you'll recognize that really growth is us as individuals, ourselves personally, and then we take that into the different areas of our lives, right? That they're not really segmented, or if we continue to segment them, I would argue or have the conversation that we're not really able to be our full selves if we're having to kind of segment things. So it's really about kind of understanding what we bring to the table as an individual, the things that we want to learn, the value that we want to add, and then we take that into the different areas of our life. And so why it matters about understanding how we got here, again, as I mentioned, is it really boils down to what decisions you made, what things were you intentional about that got you there, and then what things were external influences. And it's really important just to kind of start to try to unpack and understand those. So when you think about, again, whether it was family, right? We see, I think about like 76% of the time, this is a little bit older study, so it may not be as relevant now. A lot of things are going to change, I think, post-COVID, as it just, it's the catalyst, as I mentioned before, around this shift to a lot more knowledge work and a lot more informational type work versus, physical and industrial type work, right? I think work is going to change, and COVID is going to be a massive catalyst for that as we look back on this period of time, probably, 10, 12, 15 years from now. So again, I started with that to say that frequently our family, right, our parents in particular, have a large influence on us at a very young age on the direction, career direction, the stories that we hear, the language that they use, the conversations about how work was today, and they bring that home to us as we sit around the dinner table together and we hear those stories. It has a lot of impact and a lot of influence on us at a very young age as to what direction we end up heading as it relates to a career later on in life, right? And so we'll tend to pick up a lot of those tendencies and those traits and those beliefs and those stories that our parents gave to us, right? Or our grandparents or our aunts and uncles, whatever those really close, trusted relationships are, those advisors for us at a young age that we look to. We tend to pick up a lot of their belief systems early on as it relates to work. And so we might find ourselves at, 35, 40, 45 years old, holding on to or operating from those beliefs, and we haven't spent time understanding what our own beliefs are. So that's one of the reasons why it's really, really important, is to really understand what those influences are, what those interests are, so that we can start identifying what our own strengths, like what were the things that got you excited then. And I know that it kind of sounds corny, like, what do you love doing because you can make a career out of it? And we begin to, I think, diminish that, and believe in that hope the older that we get and the further away we get from that fire internally, right? And so as we begin to kind of chip away at coming back to that central place of interest and passion and excitement, that's where our individual strengths can really shine. They can really be exponential value returns, not just for our own happiness in life, but where we go to solve problems, where we choose to take that passion and that fire and solve problems, right? And who we solve those problems for. So it allows us to really kind of take ownership over where we are today, so that we can start to kind of build and create a map to get where we want to go. But recognizing that we can only see those places where we want to go, the things that are visible to us are really dependent on where we are today, right? And that it's really difficult to see the 10-year goal. I don't even coach businesses to make, it's important to have some really high, super high level strategic things that long out, but there's going to be so many things that happen in the marketplace between now and 10 years from now. It's really, I have not found that it's super beneficial to make a 10-year plan, right? The speed in which things change has significantly changed just over the course of the last 5 to 8 years. And so operating from that place is not really helpful. So let's tighten that time frame up a little bit. So from an action item standpoint, we think about, again, if you haven't spent a little bit of time, grab a piece of paper. Don't make it complicated, right? Just ask, just look through and maybe list a few things, right? Who were those super instrumental people in your life at a young age that impacted and influenced your career choice, right? Your career path, if you will. Think about the people. Think about the jobs that they did. Think about how they talked about those jobs. And I'm hoping that these are just some prompts as you spend some time working through some of these items. Think about the jobs that they did, the skills that they had, right? And the specific problems that they were solving in the marketplace that they were in. And then kind of correlate that to where you are today, or to think about, man, wow, I hope that you'll find that it's really interesting how it correlates and how it's impacted maybe where you sit today, regardless of what your age is and regardless of where you are in your career growth. It's never too late to be happier where you are, right? Like, you never get too old to be happier with where you are and the problems that you're solving. And this doesn't mean necessarily, also, let me unpack, because I had 2 people reach out to me. Look, this doesn't necessarily mean or is relevant only to employees inside of an organization, right? As you start to foster that fuel again, you'll find that kind of intrinsic desire show back up in it, and you'll feel hopefully more like an entrepreneur, right, inside of an organization, looking for ways to really add value in those leverage spots inside of the organization. But also, this is as relevant for the entrepreneurs and the business owners, the small business owners and the leaders inside of those organizations as well. But if you're an owner, if you're a founder, these are super relevant as well, because I know that you get burnout. I know that you feel alone frequently, right? And those elements are hard to overcome. And it's hard to try to wear all the hats, right? There's so many hats to be worn as a founder, even regardless of how old the company is, right? That you continue to hit these ceilings over and over again on your own personal growth, and that there's so many hats to wear, but really coming to a conclusion and an understanding of how you got where you are today, what those attributes are, and really starting to kind of foster what those internal interests are again. You'll find a whole nother gear, right? You'll push in that clutch and you'll be able to reach for, 3rd or 4th where it feels like most days you're kind of just in granny low, just trying to grind it out. And you don't have to be there. You don't have to be there. So just because you haven't done something doesn't mean you can't do something. And so keep that in mind as we continue kind of unpack and work through some of this together. Again, if this is valuable, share with a friend. Hit me up in the messenger. Let me know what was valuable. Let me know what other areas like you'd like to dig deeper into. And I'd love to unpack those in a more, specific way as well. So I hope this is helpful. I hope that you all have a fantastic Wednesday. I love you. Thanks for being here. And we'll talk again hopefully tomorrow. See ya.